Are you going to leave us like LeBron left us?
It's a great question. No, I won't leave. I'll not leave.
Breaking news coverage of a potential trade between the Celtics and the Cavs. Kyrie Irving going to Boston.
Did you speak to LeBron James or talk to LeBron James to let them know that you wanted out? Why not?
Why would I have to? You guys will have me back. I plan on re-signing here next year.
Kyrie Irving will sign a 4-year deal with the Brooklyn Nets.
You're a coward, Kyrie. Kemba's way better for the team. Kyrie.
He's a pathetic coward.
Kyrie's a douche.
Kyrie Irving going to the Dallas Mavericks.
I just know I want to be places where I'm celebrated. When I was in Brooklyn, where I felt very disrespected, no one ever talks about my work ethic, though. Everyone talks about what I'm doing off the floor, so.
This is the biggest stage there is, Kyrie, and this journey will lead you back to a very talented Boston team.
You know, I had a rough time there when I was in Boston. Now that I'm in a great place to be able to vocalize how I'm feeling, I'm ready to go back into Boston and have fun with my teammates.
Have you ever wondered why Kyrie Irving and the Boston Celtics don't like each other? It's a very unique story that I felt like was worth covering, especially because the Boston Celtics are facing off against the Dallas Mavericks in the NBA Finals. So before we get to the content, my voice is on its last legs, but I'm trying to make this push to 1 million subscribers. So if you want to join our grind, make sure you subscribe and turn on our notifications to help us get to 1 million. And now that we get all that out of the way, cue the intro. This is practically free money. To celebrate game 1 of the NBA Finals, PrizePicks is giving us a free square. All Jason Tatum needs is 1 point in the first game of the NBA Finals. To give you the best advantage, I highly recommend you enter these picks ASAP, because the closer you get to the game, the more likely the lines are going to get slimmer and slimmer. First, download PrizePicks and use my promo code FlightMike to get up to $100 of your deposit matched, and then enter this pick for game 1. Obviously, we're going to go with Jason Tatum. He's clearly going to get a point, but Derek Lively has always been able to get over 16.5 points, rebounds, and assists when he's been fully healthy. We're going to pick more on this. And then if you want to get really spicy, Derek White should easily be able to get 23.5 points, rebounds, and assists. He's done that for the last 5 games. I'm going to put $25 to win $125. And I give away additional picks on my Instagram story at TheFlightMike, but make sure you're followed there as well. And thank you, PrizePicks, for the sponsor. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? Our story begins during the 2017 playoffs. The Boston Celtics are the top seed in the Eastern Conference, being led by a player that finished in top 5 in MVP voting. Isaiah Thomas is the heart and soul of Boston. He's coming off of his best season to date, averaging 28.9 points per game, shooting 38% from 3, but unfortunately, tragedy struck for Isaiah Thomas. Right before the first round of the NBA playoffs, Isaiah Thomas learned that his sister, China Thomas, tragically died in a car accident, but he decided to soldier on and play anyways. When the Boston Celtics beat the Chicago Bulls in the first round, Isaiah Thomas would fly to attend his sister's funeral. But on top of this, Isaiah Thomas suffered a major hip injury back in March, an injury that he himself mentioned that he didn't understand the magnitude of.
The only thing that I think they handled wrong was not explaining to me what the extent of my injury could be if I do play. So if you're gonna tell me it's a bone bruise, I'm playing 10 times out of 10.
Right.
Like, I'm gonna figure it out.
I'm gonna get through that.
So that was probably the only thing that I wish they would have done different, and I would have really sat down and really asked those questions, like, worst case scenario, what could happen?
But despite that, Isaiah Thomas would have one of the most heroic playoff runs that we've ever seen in NBA history. He would lose his front tooth in game 1 in the Eastern Conference semifinals versus the Washington Wizards, but in game 2, he would put up 53 points, the second highest total in Celtics playoff history, becoming the 5th Celtic to score 50 or more points in a postseason game. He would go off in game 7 for 29 points and 12 assists, and would help the Celtics advance to the Eastern Conference Finals for the first time since 2012. But unfortunately, he ran into LeBron James, and in that time, if you ran into LeBron in the Eastern Conference playoffs, then you were essentially done, and that's what happened with the Boston Celtics. The Celtics would get defeated by the Cavaliers in 5 games in the Eastern Conference Finals, and there were questions about how the Celtics were going to improve their team moving forward. There's a lot of speculation. I mean, Jay Crowder and Isaiah Thomas actually brought in Kevin Durant for a meeting to try to pitch him on joining Boston as a free agent. We all know how that would turn out. Little did the franchise cornerstone of the Celtics know that he wasn't going to be the Celtics franchise cornerstone for much longer. It was kind of crazy. The Boston Celtics would sign Gordon Hayward in free agency, and Isaiah Thomas would post a video celebrating it. I can't really play it because of copyrighted music, but a month and a half after signing Gordon Hayward in free agency, a blockbuster trade was announced. Isaiah Thomas was traded with Jay Crowder, Ante Zizic, and the Brooklyn Nets' unprotected 2018 first-round pick to the Cleveland Cavaliers in exchange for Kyrie Irving. This was very shocking because the Cleveland Cavaliers were the top team in the East. People were wondering why Kyrie Irving would ever want to leave LeBron James if he's consistently making it to the NBA Finals. I wonder if this interview had anything to do with it.
Tristan called LeBron a great father after the Chicago game. What?
Oh, a great father. Oh, I thought he's... No, I'm bad. I interpreted that completely wrong.
Okay. So what type of parental role has he played for you and your teammates, LeBron?
Oh, okay. So you... Parental role? Honestly, I'm he's... I don't know how to really answer that question. He's been a great leader for us. I have one father. That's my dad, Kyrie Irving. But for us, in terms of learning the nuances of the game and also how to win on the court and also how to carry ourselves off the court, I feel like he's been a great influence in that role.
Now look, I know I joke a lot about this one interview alienating Kyrie Irving for good, but the writing was kind of on the wall for Cleveland. There was speculation that LeBron James wanted to leave the Cleveland Cavaliers, and Kyrie Irving wanted to be the focal point on his own team. What better team to be the focal point of than the Boston Celtics? They had a genius as a head coach in Brad Stevens, a loaded roster featuring the likes of Al Horford, Jaylen Brown, very strong two-way players in Avery Bradley and Marcus Smart, and a very promising bench guard in Terry Rozier. And the Celtics wanted Kyrie Irving to be the man that led them to the promised land. They felt like Kyrie Irving would be the difference between winning championships for years to come and, well, getting beaten by LeBron James consistently in the Eastern Conference. This trade was a no-brainer. Kyrie Irving was just 25 years old at the time, and you didn't really need to give up much to get him. The Celtics had one of the most legendary off seasons I think we've ever seen in NBA history. They had the #1 overall pick in the 2017 NBA draft, but they traded the #1 overall pick down to the #3 overall pick and selected Jason Tatum, who ended up being the best player out of that top 3. Honestly, it's kind of crazy because the 2016 and 2017 NBA draft featured the same 3 teams picking in the same order, and the Celtics got the best player in both of those drafts. None of those other players stayed on their primary teams, and it pains me to say this because, well, I'm a Laker fan, but take a step back and take a look at this picture. I mean, truly understand what's going on when the Celtics took this picture. This is before Jason Tatum played a single basketball game. This is when Al Horford was 7 years younger. This was when Gordon Hayward was fully healthy, Kyrie Irving was 25 years old, and Jaylen Brown was still developing, all coached by Brad Stevens. And this is the craziest part of all. You would think that at the time everybody had the Celtics as the favorites to win the NBA Finals, and a huge dramatic regular season opener was planned. I mean, you don't really need to be a script writer to know that this would be a home run. Kyrie Irving and his brand new team, the Boston Celtics, face off against his former protege, LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers. On national television, everybody will be watching. And when everybody was watching, almost instantaneously, the Boston Celtics' incredible plan that featured Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum on rookie scale contracts, Gordon Hayward and Kyrie Irving on max contracts, paired with this incredibly deep roster coached by one of the best coaches in the NBA, all collapsed in a blink of an eye. Just giving you a warning because what you're about to see is a little gruesome. But as the game was going on, Gordon Hayward would suffer a gruesome leg injury, and everything would change instantly. Now, despite Gordon Hayward's injury, the Boston Celtics were still one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference, finishing second in the Eastern Conference with a record of 55-27. But the thing that changed everything for this team was Kyrie Irving would get injured in March of 2018. And there's no question about it, this one injury completely altered the trajectory of Kyrie Irving's career. Now, without 2 of their major offseason acquisitions, one would think that the Boston Celtics would get destroyed in the NBA playoffs. But the exact opposite would happen. They would defeat the Milwaukee Bucks in 7 in the first round. How? Well, Al Horford, Jaylen Brown, Terry Rozier, and Jason Tatum carried this team. team. I know this is obscene to think of now, but Al Horford averaged 18 points per game in that series. Jaylen Brown averaged 18 points per game as well. A rookie Jason Tatum averaged 15 points per game, and Terry Rozier also averaged 17 points per game. The Boston Celtics were doing fine, but maybe it was just a fluke. Well, you saw more of the same in the second round. This time, Jason Tatum averaged 24 points per game versus the third-seeded Philadelphia 76ers. Terry Rozier averaged 19 points per game. You saw Marcus Smart stepping up a little bit as well, and this would all culminate in a huge 7-game series versus the Cleveland Cavaliers. Jaylen Brown would take the lead this time with 20 points per game, with Jason Tatum averaging 18 points per game, including the highlight of Jason Tatum's rookie year, a posterizer dunk over LeBron James. But the thing that was interesting about this series is while the Boston Celtics were making this deep run without Kyrie Irving, during Game 7, with an opportunity to go to the NBA Finals on the line, Kyrie Irving was nowhere to be found. As a matter of fact, while his new team was battling against his old team, Kyrie Irving was in New Jersey, recovering from a surgery to fix his deviated septum. Now, I know what you guys might be thinking, Mike, this is a very big deal. He had to recover from surgery, but a deviated septum is something you could get at any time. You could have gotten that surgery the very next day, or 2 days later, or 3 days later. The recovery is a week long. It's one of the most minor surgeries you could get. I've gotten it before. It was a deviated septum, not a nose job. Okay, maybe it was a nose job. Fuck off. Now, at the time, no one really made a big deal about his absence because at the end of the day, this was Kyrie Irving's team. I mean, to give you an idea, the city of Boston and Kyrie Irving were so intertwined that Nike released this commercial of Kyrie Irving.
My mom passed away when I was young, so my dad had to raise my sister and I alone. He was a great player. He even tried out for Boston once. But he sacrificed his dream so I could live mine. He's the reason I wear number 11. And I want to be the reason no one else will.
You want some more? I'll never give up, you know that.
But year 2 would be a lot stranger. I mean, in October of 2018, Kyrie Irving was sitting around with Brian Scalabrine, and at this point, I'm sure you guys are very familiar with this clip.
It's quite important, and I appreciate that, Scout. I joined in, but I shared it with some of my teammates as well as the organization and everyone else in Boston. You guys will have me back. I plan on re-signing here next year.
Boom! But the chemistry of this Boston Celtics team was terrible. I mean, Terry Rozier was pissed off that he was coming off of the bench for Kyrie Irving when he was averaging 17 points per game for the Boston Celtics in the playoffs, en route to the Eastern Conference Finals. The Celtics were doing this thing where they had a bunch of talented veterans combined with some very promising young players. But ultimately, a lot of the young players were wondering why they weren't getting more minutes, and the cracks began to show. On top of this, Gordon Hayward was clearly not Gordon Hayward anymore. The player that was averaging about 20 points per game for the Utah Jazz wasn't really as efficient as a member of the Boston Celtics. So now you're paying him an obscene amount of money for practically no reason as well. Hayward averaged about 11.5 points per game during the 2018 to 2019 season, and right when All-Star break came around, there was something going on with Kyrie Irving. I mean, why is he so buddy-buddy with Kevin Durant all of a sudden? Could it be that Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant are trying to make a move to New York, where Kyrie Irving's originally from? Well, he's technically from New Jersey, but you get my point. Just go with it for narrative's sake. Well, when Kyrie was asked about that moment, he didn't really say anything that would make Boston Celtic fans feel better.
What I do with my life is my business. So it's none of yours, none of anybody's, it's not anybody's business, right? So it's a video of me and one of my best friends talking, and then it turns out to be a dissection of a free agency meeting. You get that? Like, do you get that? And then I'm asked questions about it. Like, that's what disconnects me from all that shit.
It's kind of funny because I always thought at the time Kyrie Irving was a world-class gaslighter. And although I think he kind of matured more recently because he's in a better place, just going back to this era of his life kind of makes me understand why people didn't like him in the past. But he would continue to say,
it's just crazy. You know, this is the stuff that just, like, just doesn't make the league fun. Like, it doesn't make the league fun. Nobody helps promote the league even more by doing bullshit like that. Like, just fictitious putting things on, like, what we're talking about. Like, it's crazy. I guess that's what you want.
No. But the craziest part about this is when Kevin Durant was asked about this moment in 2020, he even said, the All-Star Game video where they caught us in the hallway, that's when it was solidified that we were going somewhere. They didn't know for a fact where it was, but it was somewhere. So this was just Kyrie Irving gaslighting everybody. And this was the beginning of the end. The Celtics would make it back into the playoffs, and Kyrie Irving was good in the first round sweep versus the Indiana Pacers, but in the second round against Milwaukee, he just shot 36% from the field and 22% from three-point range. He averaged 20 points per game, 6.4 assists per game, and 4.4 rebounds per game. But he shot 4 for 18 from the field in a Game 2 loss, and he ended the series with a dreadful 6 of 21 shooting night, going 1 for 7 from three-point range. He was minus 21 and 25 in those games. And when he was asked about it, his response was insane.
Yeah, who cares? Who cares? The expectations on me are going to be sky high, and I try to utilize their aggression against them and still put my teammates in great positions while still being aggressive. I'm trying to do it all. So, for me, the 22 shots, I should have shot 30. It really not great of a shooter.
Right when the offseason started, Kyrie Irving announced that he was signing with the Brooklyn Nets. And since then, Celtic fans haven't been the most welcoming of Kyrie Irving every single time he's attended the Garden. I mean, the first time he returned to TD Garden, he walked around the Garden and started burning sage. This is especially absurd when you consider this was a preseason game. He did it to cleanse the energy within the building, but right when he was about to face off against the Boston Celtics in the 2021 playoffs, he mentioned this about Boston fans.
I mean, it's not my first time being an opponent in Boston, so I'm just looking forward to competing with my teammates, and hopefully we can just keep it strictly basketball. There's no belligerence or any racism going on, subtle racism and people yelling from the crowd.
When you call the city's fans racist and you've betrayed that city, obviously you could expect fans to treat you like this whenever your name is called.
And this was pregame. Kyrie Irving came out to warm up, the fans booing him. It's his first game back here at the TD Garden since he left the Celtics. First game with fans. He played one earlier when there were no fans in the building. This is when he was introduced to the crowd.
Now, Kyrie Irving would play with a vengeance in this series, and it was a very messy series. I mean, there was a water bottle that a fan threw at Kyrie Irving. I mean, Celtic fans really hated Kyrie Irving. But to be honest, he would go back and forth with them, and it was really entertaining as a basketball fan to watch this. The Nets would be able to defeat the Boston Celtics in the 2021 NBA playoffs, but things would pick up right where they left off in the 2022 playoffs. This time, the Nets were in a much different situation. This is when James Harden was traded away from the team for Ben Simmons. This is when Steve Nash and Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving were begging Ben Simmons to check in for even 5 minutes, and he refused. Before the series, Kyrie Irving would say, "I hope we could move past my Boston era and reflect on some of the highlights that I left at TD Garden." And ultimately, that's not what would end up happening. I mean, for a guy that was burning sage, the fact that Kyrie Irving was draining threes and then flipping off Boston Celtic fans is hysterical to me. He would do this thing where you would flip off people behind him, and then as Kyrie Irving was walking back to the locker room, he would say this to a Celtic fan. Before ultimately Kyrie Irving understood his role in the city of Boston.
It looked like there were a couple times where you gave the fans the finger.
Where I'm from, I'm used to all these antics and people being close nearby. It's nothing new when I come into this building, what it's going to be like, but it's the same energy they have for me, and I'm going to have the same energy for them. When people start yelling pussy and bitch and fuck you and all this stuff, it's but so much you can take as a competitor. And, we're the ones expected to be docile and be humble and take a humble approach. Nah, fuck that, it's the playoffs. This is what it is. I know what to expect in here, and it's the same energy I'm giving back to them. This isn't my first time in TD Garden, so what you guys saw and what you guys think is as entertainment, or the fans think is entertainment, all is fair in competition. If somebody's going to call me out of my name, I'm going to look at them straight in the eye and see if they really about it. Most of the time, they're not. Now, the Celtics have been the superpower in the East, and they're looking for their first championship since 2008. They're going up against the Dallas Mavericks, who are looking for Luka Doncic's first championship. And upon winning the Western Conference Finals, Kyrie Irving said this.
You may have noticed that the finals will start in a place where you used to play, in Boston. You looking forward to that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Boston's in the way in between our goals, so that's it, man.
I don't really know which version of Kyrie Irving we could expect here. I don't really know if the Celtics are going to be able to get Kyrie Irving to a place where he's flipping off the entire arena as he's playing, because even as a guy that criticized Kyrie Irving in the past, when you just take everything the guy was going through in Brooklyn, the Brooklyn Nets weren't working out. He was dealing with these vaccine mandates. Everybody was scrutinizing him. And then on top of that, you go and face off against your old team and you have a bunch of fans heckling you. I mean, like, I could understand if in that case he got to a boiling point and he started flipping off members of the crowd, but it seems like Kyrie Irving's actually enjoying life now. It seems like going to Dallas was the right move for his career. He has a chance to win his second championship, and this championship would mean so much to him because he did it without LeBron James. So I don't really think you could get Kyrie Irving to a point where he's going to react like that, but I have to admit the history between Kyrie Irving and Boston is very entertaining. So let me know in the comment section down below, what do you guys think about all this? If you're a Celtic fan, do you hate Kyrie Irving still? Do you fault him for leaving Boston? What do you think made him leave Boston to begin with? I'd like to hear what you have to say. Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike. I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.